Hello, this is Words for Wednesday and I'm Tom Doherty. The word or concept for today's video is fear. Fear is throughout the Bible. In the first chapters of the Genesis, we see Adam and Eve have eaten from the tree of good and evil, and they're hiding because they know they don't have any clothes and they probably know other things. And when God comes down to walk with them in the cool of the evening, he says, "Where are you?" And they said, "We were afraid." We also know Jacob and Esau's story, where Jacob steals Esau's birthright. And later on in the story, Esau's coming for Jacob, and Jacob thinks, "I'm in trouble." And he was fearful. Saul was fearful of David because he saw God's hand on him, and he sent him away into harm's way because he feared what David might do to him or what might come God might do through David. Jesus teaches in the parable of the talents that the person with one talent buried the talent because he was afraid of his master. The disciples were afraid when the soldiers came and arrested Jesus. They were afraid when the crucifixion was over and they went and hid. What's the point? Fear restricts people's decisions and directs how they act. I was raised by World War II children, the children that came out of World War II, and they were raised in an environment that said, you teach your sons to run into challenges. You teach your sons not to run away from problems. Now, I'm not saying that I ran into any battles, but as a corrections officer, both youth and adult corrections, I had to go handle violent confrontations. When I was in a public situations, there were a few times that people were getting very angry and I thought that we might get to violence, and I was able to step in and help there. Every job I've had has required me at points to come into situations where people were highly emotionally charged. Just recently, my wife and I took our grandchildren home in the truck. We drove up to the top of the hill next to my son's house, put it in park, turned it off, got out of the truck, shut the door, slipping and sliding a little bit, and then the truck started sliding down the hill. Well, I grabbed the door, ripped it open, tried to get my keys in there, but dropped them on the ground, jumped in the seat, hit the emergency brake. The truck kept sliding, but fortunately it stopped before we got over the edge and slid down to a telephone pole. My wife said to me later, "You know, you could have slipped under the truck and the truck got you." And I said, well, at least maybe I would have been like a block of wood and stopped the truck from going over the edge. Fear directs our decisions, guides our decisions. I'm not saying that I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of those things. I am afraid of failure, failing to complete a goal, or sometimes that will affect what goals I set out to connect with. I am afraid of being judged, and so that might be in my calculations about whether I'm going to step into a situation. I'm afraid of being rejected, and being rejected could be a part of the calculations that stops me from entering into God's best will for my life. So what is going on in your life? What challenges, what fears are in your life that can be roadblocks to you receiving God's best or acting out God's best? In Hebrews chapter 13, verses 5 and 6, we read these words. God says, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." So then the writer of Hebrews says, so we can confidently say, "The Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me?" Let's be honest with ourselves. What fears challenge us from getting into receiving God's best or living out his best? Well, this is Words for Wednesday, brought to you by Every Church Grows. I'm Tom Doherty. Have a great week and overcome your fears.